So who influenced you? Who are some of the biggest influences in your music world?
So I play drums, so drum-wise, Ringo was a huge effect.
Didn't he have some of his timing issues, or did he play a little bit backwards? Like,
Well, he held his
drummers
sticks right off the chute. He played match grip, and back then you didn't play match grip, you played traditional grip. So
that was different right off the rip.
right out of the chute. Yeah, it was different. And the match grip thing, which looks cool. You know, he does, but traditional grip looks cool too. Stuart Copeland of Police, you know, I mean, he looks great when he plays. Ringo, Mitch Mitchell, Jimi Hendrix Experience, he really had an effect on us. He had an effect on all drummers. His influence is, when I was a kid, you know, if you took drum lessons, jazz and rock players were just huge gap between them. You know, the jazz guys were intellectual and they looked down and frowned on rock and roll, and then, you know, it's a bunch of junk and things. So, but when you took drum lessons in the mid '60s, I mean, a guy looked like Drew Carey when he first came out, you know, with the horn rimmed glasses, and he had this look, and you know, he's talking about Elvin Jones and brushes and things, and you're like, oh God, you know. And then, but then all of a sudden Mitch Mitchell comes out, you know, he's playing brushes and he's doing all this, he's talking to Elvin Jones and he's doing all these jazz licks, you know, like going, but he's in mod clothes and swinging in London, you know, you're like, well, yeah, I get it now, you know, I get it now. And so the effect that Mitch Mitchell had, because, you know, I could go on about him for some time, he had a huge effect. Bonham, you know, everybody goes on about Bonham, and Bonham, you know, amazing. You know. But I like to talk about people that, like Ian Pace of Deep Purple, that don't get as much. Deep Purple had a huge effect on us. In rock, boys and girls, Deep Purple in rock, there's a rock album. It's a rock album. Fireball, amazing. I know Lars of Metallica.
Fireball's another underrated album.
Yeah, he's big into that one, and he's big into the Deep Purple. You know, Ginger Baker and Cream had a big effect on a lot of people. I dug the early Cream. If you want Cream, if you want to go pick one Cream album, I don't know, Disraeli Gears for me. You know, I did some Wheels of Fire, but Disraeli Gears.
It sounds like Ginger Baker's gonna break through the drum like every time he hits it.
He was cool. He was cool. They were cool. I mean, they were really cool. Even early on, I mean, I was big into the Hollies, you know, with Bobby Elliott on drums. I love that. Procol Harum, you know, I was big into Procol Harum. They don't get the recognition I think that I'd like to see them get. Them and the Moody Blues, as far as the progression of bringing the progression of rock, you know, I mean, Moody Blues had an enormous effect on that, you know, the Mellotrons and all that stuff. And but Bobby Elliott of Hollies I loved him, and I dug the Hollies. Dave Clark 5, there's another one that don't really get the, they didn't get over the second hump, kind of, where everybody else did from when the Beatles went into their Rubber Soul thing, and you know that Dave Clark 5 didn't make that, but early on, I mean, they were really something. When they come through your car radio, and it was just an explosion. I mean, he really messed it the way they would just explode through your radio on that little dash from those old cars.
Yeah, like the mono speaker right on the dashboard.
But Dave Clark 5 just exploded, you know. There's something about them. They were brilliant. But B.J. Wilson, the drummer of Procol Harum, a brilliant player, and they were really cool. They got their catalog's real rich, you know. Robert Trower's from them, you know. I actually got to see the Whiskey Train tour with Robin Trower.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I actually got to see Robin Trower. I was pretty young, but I got to see Robin Trower with Procol Harum, so I've always been able to
That's awesome.
say that, you know, it's kind of, he's in that, you know.
And that's why he's my music mentor, right
Yeah,
there.
that would have been the Whiskey Train tour, you know, I remember that. Vinegar Joe opened it with a guy named Robert Palmer was the singer in that. That was Vinegar Joe, those guys. we were lucky here in Columbus, Ohio, to have a room that brought in this. It was the old Agora, and then now we know it as a Newport, but it brought in all these bands. For me, Herbie Hancock is like the most inspirational cat out of all of them, for me. I mean, he goes back with Miles, and he goes back into the late 50s. I think he's like 14. I could be wrong on this, but he's something like, even at 14 or 15, he's on stage with the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, and he was just really something at a really early age. And then he played with Miles really early on, and he's in with that Tony Williams thing with Tony and that crowd, you know, playing with Miles. And Tony Williams is another drummer that had a music thing. I mean, Tony was the guy that really took you know, the intellectual jazz and then put that power to it, you know. And then Billy Cobham and all those guys coming in from behind that, you know, he had Tony Williams. So Hancock, you know, I've always thought, when you look at his catalog and all the trends and everything he's done, you know, the Headhunters and all that, there's no weak, you know, you can't really, there's no weak point where some, you know, bands you can go, oh, well, that's not talking about them years, or that's not talking about that, or something. But in Herbie, even when he went kind of pop with that Rocket,
Right. Yeah.
it was
Rocket.
still like, it still managed to be really cool.
Oh, that was cool.
Yeah, it
At
was
that
cool.
time, it was
It was
killer.
really cool. A cool video.
Even now.
Even so, that's him just doing pop. You know, even when Herbie went pop, it was like really still cool. See, I mean, he never lost his cool. So there's something about that. You know. I think it's Mike Clark on that first Headhunters. I could be wrong, but I think it's Mike Clark. Great player. You know, to be around Herbie Hancock and in that crowd.
It's gonna rub off on you.
Well, you gotta be good to be there.
Oh, you gotta be. Okay, I see
You
what
can't
mean.
fake jazz. You know, you know, you get exposed if you're, you know.
Very
If I was
quickly.
trying to play, if I was to try to play jazz, I'd be immediately exposed as a fraud. A charlatan. I'm a rock and roll drummer, but I listened to jazz when I was young, and I love jazz. That's a name that mentioned too. Is Jimmy Miller. Jimmy Miller, the producer. I'd like to see a good book on him, but I haven't seen it on him like I'd like to see.
Something like Tom Dowd, where there's kind of
Yeah,
unappreciated.
something like Tom's. You know, Tom's got that DVD, which is great. We
Brilliant.
both have seen this. Geoff Emerick, yeah, I know Alan Parsons and those guys. You know, but Jimmy Miller. I mean, Jimmy Miller. Like in this, you know, the Stones. He came on with the Stones at Beggar's Banquet, and then Let It Bleed, and then Sticky Fingers, and then Exile on Main Street, Goat's Head Soup, which I don't like as much as the other
Yeah, I don't
ones.
care for the Goat's Head
Well,
Soup.
I think they recorded it in Jamaica, and they need to be recorded in England, but that's Tony Visconti. I think he should be mentioned. I know he gets mentioned with the David Bowie produced stuff, but he also did the second Procol Harum. He was in on that, you know, the Shine On Brightly thing, which is another one, boys and girls, is the Shine On Brightly thing, which is a English psychedelia stuff, you know, that 68, I don't know if that's 68 or 69. He did that, and he does Gentle Giant, you know, which was another one that was big in my neighborhood, Gentle Giant stuff. So, you know, he was kind of a Carmen. I think you might have my Carmen album.
Yep.
Yeah. Ken Scott's book did it. Nicky Hopkins' book. There's another one, Nicky Hopkins' book.
Yeah, I haven't read either of these.
Nicky Hopkins, you know, there's another player that's, you know, Sympathy for the Devil, Stone, all that Stone stuff. I mean, he played with everybody. I mean, literally everybody. Kinks, you know, a lot of Stone stuff is he's just so a part of it, and he needs mentioned. His book's a pretty good book.
Cool. I'll have to check that out.